Something feels not exactly right. Can you see my new sword?
You got a new sword?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Dude, that's dope. No.
It's like, it's not real, you know what I mean?
Oh, but that's cool.
You know what I mean?
It's
It's for show, but it's good that it's not too sharp because I would cut myself.
Yeah, I think that's good. But it sounds like it's still sharp.
No, it's not. You can touch it.
I can touch it? Like even
It's flat as a doornail.
You could still pierce someone. You could pierce, but you're not gonna slice someone with it.
I guess I could. It's pointy at the tip.
That's what I mean. Yeah, so you could pierce, but you're not gonna like cut through armor
or
like a piece of bamboo or something like that. This is a finisher sword.
No. It's my first one, so.
It also says lock right next to your battery. What do you think that means?
I don't know what that means either.
Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about it.
Is that why? I wonder if that has anything to do with why Cubby couldn't download the footage? That makes no sense, though, right?
No, that wouldn't, because I had zero issues with the footage.
You exported and everything was normal?
Export everything, yeah. It's up on YouTube.
That's so weird that it was an issue with him downloading and also an issue with you putting the footage on a flash drive. So it's not like it was his computer issue, even.
No, I feel like it was. I really don't know.
What's the issue then?
So I think what then ended up happening was after I decided I was taking over the podcast because he no longer had the time to do it then by like Saturday night, which is when we were still working on this. I had deleted all of the files I had originally put on my computer and I re-ripped them from the SD card.
Okay.
So it might have been that this ripping ended up being okay.
It was the initial transport from the SD card to the computer.
Yeah.
Something got happened in that transport where those files were corrupt, but when you retransferred, those files weren't. So that's what it was.
Yeah, and when he was over while we were recording and I was trying to put everything on his hard drive, I was using those original files I had tried to send over to him.
It was the original transfer process, which is so fucking stupid.
So if we had tried to do it on Saturday, like when I had, like if I would have had his card and like a re-ripped file, I'm sure that would have been okay on the flash drive. But then again, at that point, he had lost Thursday night and Friday night to work on the podcast. So I did it. And then there was this great bit that we were purposefully did a cubby bird in for that I had to pick up. And I that made me laugh. That made me laugh in the editing room. I was like, you are a jackass, Cameron.
You ready?
Yes.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Dragon Shield. Use code PLAYTOWIN5 with the link down below for 5% off to help support the show.
Welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in CEDH. I'm Cam.
I'm Dylan, and this week we have a little bit of a hodgepodge. We're taking a little bit of a break from the best colors in CEDH series so that we can do this episode, and then next week we are doing the Marvel set episode, and then we'll be back to the blues, and then the white cards, and then maybe the multicolored cards after that?
Probably even colorless cards after that.
Right, but today we got a couple questions from some patrons, and then we have a couple of decks that we've been playing recently that we want to talk about and highlight a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, because we haven't had a chance to talk about these on the podcast yet, and I want to dive into them a little bit more.
What do you got? What's our first little thing on the menu here?
All right, so the first thing that Will wants to know, we haven't talked about this in a little bit. Do we think the format would be better without the partner mechanic? But he'll let it up to us to decide what better actually means.
Oh, I would say certainly not.
Yeah, okay.
Partners, I think, are what makes CEDH possible. At least initially, that was kind of what makes CEDH possible, I think.
Because it kind of let you, instead of like have to build your deck around some commander that like required you to play specific cards and very specific combos, and instead kind of let you go into a more good stuff direction, which just let you play powerful cards, make infinite mana, and just like super easily win the game with just good powerful cards instead of having to synergize with your command zone so much.
I also think kind of what would happen, the format would shrink rather than expand, which is I think what people wants to happen when they talk about banning partner or like getting rid of partner is that you think that the format will expand. And now
because now I'm not allowed to play Rograk anymore.
Right, so now all these other things will become possible, where in actuality, I don't think that's actually what would happen. I think what would happen is the format would shrink, and the commanders that are good enough to contain with partners right now would remain, and then everyone else would just play one of those decks. So like Kinnan would be like the best deck in the format by a billion miles.
Easily.
Ral would get a whole lot better. If you wanted to do like fast stuff, you would do Ral. If you wanted to do slop stuff, you would do Kinnan. I guess Atali would also be there too. But
Atali gets worse because Atali feeds off of good stuff piles. And if I'm only playing against Magda and Kinnan, it's way harder for me to keep my engines going all the time.
Right. And I think the partners thing is like part of the Brewers strategy for CEDH. Like the way that you get edges in CEDH is like micro changes to little things, and partners being able to move around allow you you to adjust your decks in very slight ways and like be able to play competitively without having to like rely on a commander. Like decks like Rog Ishai, which didn't exist really before 6 months ago, now is like arguably, you know, one of the best decks, if not the best deck in the format right now, which makes no fucking sense. But like that deck wouldn't obviously be possible without partners because Rograk is broken. And that,
you could say
you know,
that like
better or worse. I don't know,
but like you could also say like, oh well, you could just like in theory replace Rograk and Ishai with like a Narset or something else like that. But what makes the deck strong, exactly. If that was good, people would be doing that now. Right. But the problem is what makes the Jeskai shell strong right now is that you have Rograk in the command zone to turn on all of your free interaction insanely easily, and there's 0 Narsets, there's 0 other Jeskai color commanders that require you to spend full Jeskai mana to cast them that are going to let you do that in the same way where like you just won't lose Doral on turn 2 immediately.
Right, yeah. So better is subjective, right? Better according to who? If you hate Rograk, yeah, getting rid of partners might get better. For me personally,
if you like the idea of only 2 decks being playable in the format, maybe it is better that we get rid of partners. It's like what happened with the Mana Crypt banning and the Dockside banning. It's not that decks that didn't lose things got better, because if you didn't have access to, you know, something like that, it's not like you're getting better. Just because there's no partners doesn't mean that Yuriko is better. Like in theory it is, because there's just less decks. So of course Yuriko gets ranked higher because there's less decks to rank. You're not giving Yuriko a new tool to keep up with Kinnan, which it's already super far behind. You're not giving, you know, a new tool to Yuriko to keep it up with Magda, which is already so far ahead of Yuriko too, right?
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is like this argument does change slightly if they continue to create broken commanders like Kinnan. Like if they print other cards that are on the same power level as Kinnan, then this argument changes a little bit once there are more powerful things to go about. But if that's not the case, and I don't honestly, this Marvel set, we're going to talk about it next week, some of the cards feel very strong. I don't know, but like it says seem, so if they do, we're not going to talk about them now, but if we do see print more cards that are like Kinnan and that are similar to Ral and that are powerful, it might make less of a difference if the partners would get banned. But I personally would think that is bad because I like the partners and I think they're strong and good and I want to play them.
I agree. Yeah, it's my favorite part of Commander is partners, because it's actually really like the only interchangeable thing that you can really do in CEDH that like allows you to customize a deck that you're building, because otherwise you're pretty much like laid out with like what Magda's doing. Right. What Kinnan's doing is pretty much laid out. Yeah, okay, I can build it more turbo, I can do this. I don't know. There's always going to be like a kind of a defining build of a lot of those decks, whereas sure, like you could argue it's the same with Blue Farm, but there's still like a little bit more customization that I think you have inside of a partner pairing deck, as opposed to, again, Yuriko, where you're kind of forced to build a lot of your deck to be synergistic with what your commander's doing, which is great for casual, but we don't need that in CEDH.
Yeah, I think also an appeal for the partners is a lot of them are generic. They're not specific. Kinnan is very specific, but Rograk is just a free creature. You know what I mean? Like you can build Rogsai, the turbo version, but Rongsai is also a deck that can be really good. The partners are so generic, you can build the deck to be whatever you want. So not only can you like customize who your commanders are, but you really can be fast Blue Farm or slow Blue Farm. You can kind of do both. Whereas like Kinnan's always going to be sloppy. You could be fast Kinnan, I guess. What the deck is going to do best is make a bunch of mana and go over the top. That's what it's going to do, because Kinnan is very specific. All the partners, like, what do? They draw cards, they make a treasure, they're small. Like, they don't do anything specific, so they're very wide open.
And you can argue, too, well, we still have 5-color decks. There's like, Najeela's around, and you could play, like, Jensen Luris, or, like, all these other different 5-color partners, too. They still have all different kinds of tools, but I think they, again, kind of fall into the category of, well, if it's not one of the best decks right now, it's not going to get better if there's a banning of partners in the format. So you're just kind of in the same boat as all the other weak commanders that aren't really benefiting off of a partner ban. You really do, like you said, you kind of bottleneck the format into being, here's the best bunch of decks, and you can play all this other stuff. You can still play Zuladuk, but a lot of what makes Zuladuk now good isn't going to be good anymore because there's not as much sloppy stuff going on.
It would benefit, like, I would think 4 specific decks. It would benefit Kinnan, Ral, Sisse, Etali. The decks that are already considered tier 1-ish, it would benefit those decks.
And again, I think Etali's kind of like on the cusp.
And you're totally right. Without as many, like, I don't know what would replace the Grixis deck. Like, Grixis Shell is still so good. Something would replace Rogsai. I don't really know what that would be. Maybe the new Nick Fury that we're not going to talk about, and it would just be 5-color.
Terra even. Like,
Terra
that's out.
Or Green Goblin. I doubt it would be any of those, but something would probably replace the Grixis Shell. But realistically, like I said a couple times already, partners are cool and I like them, so I don't want them to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. I would mark that question as answered.
Me too.
What's next?
We actually got a couple things from Davishire here. Do we think that Universes Beyond will continue to get more staples printed in them? And if so, how do we think it will affect the community, specifically those who haven't been into Universes Beyond?
We kind of just mentioned this, that the the new Universes Beyond set seems like it's very powerful. Do I think that we'll get more staples? Yeah, probably. I think they're going to print powerful cards in any set, and I don't think they particularly care if the powerful cards go in Universes Beyond sets or not. If anything, I would imagine that they would want more powerful cards going in their Universes Beyond sets because they want those to sell well right now.
I bet they are pretty incentivized to make Universes Beyond cards good.
Yeah, so
I would be.
How would that affect the community? Is that the question? How does that affect the community?
Affect the community?
That's tough. The community is made up of many individuals. So how it will affect the community, if I were to give a word, differently. It would affect everyone a little bit differently. Personally, I don't give a shit. I don't care what the name of the card that I'm playing is. Sometimes when it's like a Garfield card, I'll roll my eyes a little bit. But like realistically, they're game pieces to me, and I don't give a shit what the card is. The fact that they're cool wizards, that is part of what got me into Magic originally, but I don't really care per se what it is. You know what I mean?
Just because it's not Jace, you know?
Right,
like,
yeah, it doesn't really make a difference to me. We've talked about this before. I didn't know the lore behind Jace. I don't know the lore behind Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It doesn't matter. Whatever's good is good. The only issue I would say is when the Universes Beyond sets seem like they're particularly bad. For some reason, that feels worse than when it's a Universes Within set that's bad, and I'm not sure why that it feels worse, but like it feels like more shallow, I think. I don't know if that's just like a bias or what, but if it's a Universes Beyond set that doesn't have staples and sucks, I hate that more. If it has good cards, I like that more because it's good cards, and who cares? They're cards, you know?
It's very obvious to say what were the last bad Magic sets because it was clear that Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were the two last ones that were pretty...
And bad is like kind of loose because like they posted a report, those sets sold really well.
Well, we've kind of learned since then that by sold really well means that they sold to wholesalers and retailers really well. It doesn't mean that packs were flying off of your LGS.
That's very true. The way that they mark their sales is by they have to sell the stuff to the game stores, and the game stores have to continue buying big amounts of product because if the game stores do not buy a big amount of product, they're not offered that much amount of product next time.
I anecdotally can go to my LGS and I can buy as much Spider-Man packs as I want or as much Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle as I want, but I'm having a hard time finding the new Lorwyn stuff and the new Strixhaven stuff as much, right?
And Wizards doesn't care if you, the individual, buys their product directly because they sell to wholesalers. They sell to Target and they sell to local game stores.
And that's what their stock market price goes off of.
And once those things are sold, then they're good to go. And all of those establishments know that if they don't buy, they won't be able to buy next time. And the next set might be good, so they have to buy this bad set. So Wizards always sells all their shit. And then we see like all the pictures on Reddit or whatever where like there's like shelves and shelves of Turtles product that doesn't go anywhere.
So it kind of creates this really weird dichotomy of like, well, I understand what you're saying, but like when we look at the reality of things, is it really like one of the best selling sets of all time?
Right.
So when we go back then, where I was trying to go with this is, what was the last bad in-universe Magic set?
That's tough. I have, dude. There's, I feel bad piling on. Like there's so many sets I can't keep track of them, but like I can't really keep track of all the different sets. Like,
it's kind of hard to kind of nail them down.
If you like asked me like right off the spot, I would say most of the in-universes ones were pretty good. I would say the race car set maybe was not so good.
Aether Drift was probably the last worst one.
That one felt particularly characters with hats on them. It felt very much like, what if these characters drove race car cars? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. We are coming into Universes Beyond after we had a lot of characters with hat sets, which might as well be Universes Beyond.
Right, and I specifically remember that Aether Drift, it didn't have many powerful cards, if I'm remembering correctly.
Stock Up was the best card. Bright Glass Gearhawk, I'll say, is the card that has standed the test of time the most.
Yes, there was a couple, but overall, it seemed like it was kind of an underpowered set. So if I were to pick a set that was in universe that was maybe not so good, I guess I would say that one, but if I looked at the list, I might change my opinion.
Okay, yeah. You're saying it's more egregious when Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are bad versus when Aether Drift is bad.
Yeah, but I don't have anything true or real to base that off of. That's just gut reaction that it feels extra worse when the Fortnite set is terrible than when the race car set is terrible. And I don't, like I said, I don't have a good reason for why that is. That's just like a very personal thing for some reason.
I would speculate that's probably because we set an expectation as fans of IPs for what to expect when a Magic card is printed from that IP, because we have our own way that we would have gone about that, right? And so when we see Wizards prints Thor and it's not what we would have put on Thor, we go, well, fuck, this sucks, because this is not what I would have done.
It's not what I had expected. But with the Universes Within set, you don't really expect anything because you don't really know the lore. So whatever it is, all right, that's what it is.
But then again, I agree with you. I'm willing to turn a blind eye at cards that are bad in the set if there's going to be cards that are good in the set. Because as we're looking at some early spoilers for the Marvel set, I think there's a lot of things that are similar to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man, where they're just like, this card has no reason to do this effect on this character, but it's just a generically good effect in Magic, and this is a blue character, so let's give them this ability.
Interesting.
But I think that there's like also some cards that are so powerful that are going to impact games that I'll have fun with, that I'm willing to overlook those more in this Marvel set than I was in Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that didn't have the powerhouses or the seemingly extremely powerful cards that will be more easily remembered over cards like Bagel and Schmear.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because and maybe this is just a predisposition, or I went into Marvel kind of wanting this to be the case, but it feels to me like this set feels closer to Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings than it does to Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And maybe this is because I used to be a big comic book fan, so like some of the lore hits a little bit harder, and I don't know anything about Ninja Turtles, and Spider-Man was like, honestly, out of all the characters, kind of low for me specifically. So I don't know if it was that, but to me, it seems like a lot of the characters are very flavorful, and I think that there's a lot of powerful ones, and it seems like they do kind of hit a little bit differently for some reason. But like I said, I don't know if it's just because like I want it to be good, so I'm telling myself it's good, or is it actually good? Because it feels like Final Fantasy level to me.
I guess like I don't really know anything about the lore of Final Fantasy, so I guess like I just kind of assumed that a lot of like the powerful stuff kind of made sense for what it was doing. Right. But like I don't really have a reason to understand why Vivi does what Vivi does, right, really.
Yeah. I think, you're more likely to be let down, I think, because you have a pre-idea of what the card should be or whatever.
But if the card's really strong and is going to see play in formats and decks that I'm going to play and like, I'm not really going to care. It's going to be like Whimsicott for me. Here's a great example. I hated Whimsicott as a Pokemon until I got into VGC.
Because in the playthrough, Whimsicott is stupid. It's not, Encore's not really good. Prankster doesn't matter as much. Like, it's not as big a tailwind.
It just looks like some, doofy woodland creature that I don't need on my team, right? But then you see the VGC and you learn Prankster Tailwind is insane. Right, you learn about fake tier support. I'm thinking about Sword and Shield way more than I'm thinking about Champions right now with this. But this is what kind of made me fall in love with Whimsicott. And now it's one of my favorite Pokemon. Maybe it is just like if you see something on the surface, you can be super quick to judge it based on how it looks. But you gotta not judge it based on its cover. Once you get to learn how it actually is in a game, then you can really sufficiently judge how the card is going to be. And I think that's maybe the approach that I'll need to take with a lot of these Marvel superheroes that maybe I think don't have the kind of flavor, but once I start to play them, this is all just based off stuff that I'm reading on cards.
Right. And also the flavor, again, at least to reiterate on my end of things, I really don't care about the flavor. It's like a fleeting thought that I have. Ooh, the flavor makes sense. Ooh, it doesn't. Realistically, the only part that matters is the card good or not? You know what I mean? And outside of that, I really don't give a shit.
I'll forget about every version of Doctor Doom that's not good.
Right, yeah, it doesn't matter. Doctor Doom in particular, I don't care about lore, but I do want to say Doctor Doom I think is great. The fact that it kind of like works with Doomsday in that you can start your Doomsday pile or you can finish your Doomsday pile and you can win the game after you clear the cards or whatever. I like it when they match real stuff to Magic stuff like that, where like Doomsday works with Doctor Doom. That's cool. But realistically, the most important part is the card good or not? And for Doctor Doom, I think the answer is like probably not, but I want to try it.
Yeah, so I think basically what I'm trying to say is I think what will separate this Marvel set from the other more recent Universes Beyond sets that we've gotten is that there are good cards that will impact CEDH and Commander that we'll see play, that are going to evoke fun from people. And I think that's going to be what makes the set better and actually stand out as opposed to the last two that we got.
At least for us in particular, neither of us are big collectors. We're not really necessarily big drafters. I know you like draft, but realistically, you're not drafting
Now
I
draft once a month, and I embarrass myself on the Only Cams episodes, except for this past month when it went really well.
Yeah. So like realistically, those other aspects, they just like they don't have an impact on us. The things that have an impact is like, is this card good in CEDH? We've said that a couple times.
So I guess from the community perspective, here's what I think we'll do as the community. Nothing will change.
Right.
Nothing will change. People will complain, and if they drop out of Magic, they will be replaced by people who are brought into Magic through Universes Beyond.
I would say if you don't like the Universes Beyond stuff, this sounds like shitty, and I don't mean to be mean, but if you don't like the Universes Beyond stuff, or you don't like what Magic is doing right now, you don't have to play. You know what I mean? Like, no one's making you. If you like your hobby, you like your hobby. If you don't like your hobby, don't like your hobby. I know maybe that sucks. You don't want to stop playing Magic because you want to keep liking Magic, but like, if you don't like it, do something else. Take a little break and play another game, and then maybe come back when the set's good. You know what I mean? There's going to be another good set. Comes out in a few months. You can come back and you play then.
There's so many sets. Yeah, you can not play Magic for a month and a half and then come back when you're happier.
All I mean is like guard your happiness. You know what I mean? If your hobby's not making you happy, and I know that sucks. Like if you don't don't like it, then you can leave. I'm not really saying that, but like if you're not having a good time doing your thing, shouting about it actually will help a little bit because they do read the internet stuff. And if everyone hates something a lot, they will think about that slightly. But realistically, like go do something else. You can have fun doing other shit. There's like tons of other good shit. I don't know.
That's the thing. Like this is kind of just the direction that Magic is going in. I kind of hate to say, well, you kind of have to deal with it, but like if you're gonna be into Magic, like this is something that is gonna be a part of being into Magic for the next rest of Magic's lifespan. I can't imagine that as long as Universes Beyond is continually going to make the money that they're ever going to do anything that gets rid of Universes Beyond.
Theoretically, like eventually they will like run out of IPs, but like we can always go return to Marvel. We can always return
to art. Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
Right? Like I kind of feel bad for like Walking Dead fans who like got the shit end of the stick because all these IPs we went to really early on aren't getting full sets and their cards suck in comparison to the stuff that we're getting now, right? How have they not run out of Magic cards then either? Like if you haven't run out of fake universes,
there's always more ideas. There's always more stuff.
There's always another fake universe out there that you can go to.
Yeah. Overall though, I think Universes Beyond is it's fun. It's funny. When the cards are ridiculous, when the wizard gets printed, I don't know, that's kind of funny. There's always funny cards, whatever.
The wizard?
The wizard. His name is the Wizard.
The Wizard. Oh.
He's like a fast guy. He's a speedy. I don't know. He's a nothing card. He has got haste or whatever. He doesn't do really anything.
But his name is just the Wizard.
The Wizard. Saffron Olive posted something saying he wants to do all yellow border basic lands for that deck and have the Wizard as the commander. That's funny.
That's really funny. See, this is the stuff that we miss out on if we don't have Universes Beyond. We don't get someone with peen references in their name. That's so funny.
What else we got today?
Let's talk about some decks that we've picked up pretty recently.
Oh, sure. You want to talk about Aang?
Yeah, the first one that I have on the list is Aang at the Crossroads.
Aang the math equation.
Aang the math equation, yeah.
Aang a computer could play this deck.
Aang the slot machine. Yeah, talk about a deck for Atali lovers.
Should we say what Aang does, the full scope? People probably have an idea, but should we read it?
When we talked about it, we were pretty spot on with like what the deck could do.
But there's an all-in version
Well, I guess,
what it does.
First we were wrong because we thought it would be a food chain deck, and then we relearned what it would do, and now it's doing something like that's the same as what we learned that it's doing, but now it's like you're saying, all in.
Yeah, I thought like it was just going to be a Bant deck, and you can play Bant cards, and you can use Aang to get some value once in a while, but it was really a food chain outlet. Now it just casts Aang, wins the game on the spot.
Once, yeah, and you don't even need a second Aang trigger. Like you don't even need your roaming threat anymore.
Right.
So
it helps.
It helps, yeah. But let me start from the top. So Aang at the Crossroads, 2 and Bant. It's a 3/3 flyer that when it enters, you look at the top 5 of your library. You can put a creature with mana value 4 or less into play, and then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. And then whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you transform Aang at the beginning of your next upkeep. I'm not even reading the back. The back doesn't matter.
From what I understand, you actively want that not to happen.
I actively don't want that to happen, but the deck is built around that happening because anytime you clone Aang, you're cloning a legendary creature, so another creature you control leaves the battlefield, which means that you have to win right now if you clone Aang.
Or you can, set yourself up in a situation where like you don't need Aang anymore and then you win next turn. But like,
because
likely you want to win right now.
Because you have 30 Aangs in play.
Yeah. There are like, 60 clones in this deck? I say clones loosely, but like there's like, how many creatures are in this deck?
There's 62 cards. Yeah. Not all of them are clones.
Some of them are Restoration Angel type cards, flickering permanents, right? Stuff like that.
They count as clones, yeah. I'll also say that Melira, the Living Core, and the other one, Safi Eriksdotter, are also clones. Renegade Rallier is a clone because sometimes there's a clone in your graveyard you can get back.
Soul Herder flickers at the end step, so that's still kind of a clone.
Same thing with Thassa Deep Dwelling. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that like just flicker that do that. And so most of your deck is built around, casting Aang and then trying to get one of these effects into play and then rebuying your Aang trigger so that you can keep finding more clones and going through more of your deck. And previously, we were like, okay, well, you need to get a Roaming Throne effect and Panharmonicon into play so that you can get 2 Aangs so that one finds you a clone, one finds you something that progresses you ahead.
And it does seem like that once you get towards the end of this combo, that something similar does end up happening where you get an effect into play that produces 2 Aang triggers or more, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it just takes some setting up and a little bit of like luck in order for you to get there. At least for me, it took luck because I did not know this deck well enough. But there's actually a 96-page primer that goes along with this deck that kind of helps you understand what clones to hit in what order and like really what you're looking out for. And some of the most obvious stuff for me to find was there's a couple of clones that allow you to keep Aangs around. These are mostly Sakashimas or a Chameleon or something like that.
They get rid of the legend rule, or they change the name of Aang so you can keep them both around.
Yeah, when you can have an Aang in play as you find more clones that are also cloning Aang, so that way you can kind of start to set yourself up for other things that are going to require you to put another Aang trigger on the stack at your leisure.
It seemed like the big thing that you're looking for is the one that can reduce its power to 0. What is that called?
Gigantoplasm.
Gigantoplasm, right?
This is kind of the best one, and what I'm normally looking to do is hit something like Chameleon first, so I can make a copy of Aang while keeping Aang in play, and then I can find Gigantoplasm and then make a Gigantoplasm copy of the Chameleon copy of Aang, so that I have a Chameleon with an Aang ETB that also has the ability to set its power and toughness to 0 at my leisure. So that when I go and keep Aanging until I find Jackdaw Savior, what that means is that whenever a creature with flying dies, I can return another creature from my graveyard with lesser mana value to the battlefield. It is lesser mana value because Aang is always dying. It's always a clone, so it's always a 5-mana creature dying, so you always have a 4-mana thing that you're getting, which means that as you sacrifice your Gigantoplasm, you can go get another clone from your graveyard because of the Jackdaw Savior trigger, which then gets you an Aang trigger, and then you can have that one die to the legend rule, and then just get back Gigantoplasm, and then that one you can sacrifice for its 0-mana ability to set its power again, give you another Jackdaw Savior trigger to have another clone come back from your graveyard, copy Aang, die to the Legends rule, re-trigger Jackdaw Savior, and then that way you're able to get infinite Aang triggers from here. So this is a way that we kind of had to luck into finding Chameleon effect first, into Gigantoplasm, into Jackdaw Savior this way, but this is just one of the many ways that you can set up infinite Aang triggers this way.
It is kind of confusing when I think about it realistically, but I think like the main goal is, you get the Plasm into play, you basically sack the Plasm to go while you have something in play that makes you another copy of the Plasm, so you can keep on going again.
Exactly.
And I guess the confusing part is to me is how do you end up with the ability to get 2 of them coming into play? Like you have a clone come in, how do you make it so that then you're getting 2 Aang triggers?
Because of Jackdaw, basically. What Jackdaw's doing is every time you kill one of your clones to the Legend rule, or you sacrifice your Gigantoplasm copy of it, you're getting the Aang ETB trigger from its originally entering, and
Jackdaw brings another one.
Jackdaw's bringing another clone back.
Right.
Yeah, so it's essentially acting as a panharmonicon that you had to set up. Each clone that you get back from the graveyard finds you another clone that lets you keep going.
So you find the Plasm, then off of the Plasm trigger, maybe you find the Jackdaw, and then once the Jackdaw is here, you sack the Plasm, and when the Plasm goes, you get a copy of it, and the copy of it becomes a copy of Aang.
Well, you'll get another clone from your graveyard back into play.
Okay.
So like the Phantasmal image that you have in your graveyard as you were trying to find all these cards, that comes back in as a copy of Aang, so now you get an Aang trigger, and then the Phantasmal image dies,
which triggers the Jackdaw again.
Which means that now we get to bring back Gigantoplasm from our graveyard, and we have the Aang ETB trigger from the Phantasmal image.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And then you kind of go from there. And then eventually you hit like Preston or something like that, or the Toy Man, who also allows you to, every time something goes, you make a copy of it.
Bernard is the food man.
Yeah, yes. Food man. I don't know why I think he's a Toy Man.
Toys, foods, it's the same thing. I play with my foods, so it makes sense.
Yeah, this deck is absolute nonsense, but realistically what ends up happening is you cast Aang, and basically you win the game. It seems like there might be some fail states where you hit things in the wrong order, but oftentimes when that's the case, you end up with like 30 power in play, and you're like in not the worst spot ever, and you don't cast any spells. You cast the one and then nothing else. You don't feed the Ristic Studies, and I play around Rule of Law, it doesn't really matter anymore, but you play around certain stacks pieces and shit like that, but it doesn't do anything else. It just presses the Aang button, and then we see what happens, right?
And if you do fail, what I really like about the end step flickerers is that, you can spin into one of them and end on them. Not only try again on your end step then, but you can also, if you need to pass with 30 power in play, you have a free way to start your loop again when you go back to an end step, which is pretty sweet.
Deck seems awesome, but it plays so few actual cards. I don't know that it's a deck that I'm actually interested in playing ever, but if it wins enough, I would certainly consider it.
Yeah, that's a thing. And to actually win, it's also extremely convoluted and confusing too. It's Cephalid Coliseum loops with Renegade Rallier, because you have to keep buying back Renegade Rallier into play, and then sacrificing the Cephalid Coliseum, which means you have to make infinite mana as you're doing this. So one of your things has to find supportive parents. One of your triggers has to find supportive parents.
I just picked up a supportive parents to try in Rogthras, actually.
No kidding, really?
Yeah, Sam Black is trying out this list with Is It Guildmage, and it plays a lot of like dramatic reversal, untap your creature type of things. So you can tap them all for mana. You want as many things that are like Earthcraft as possible, basically.
Kind of nice that it's just an activated ability on a creature instead of like a spell you have to cast over and over again.
Whatever.
Yeah, so this deck, I kind of agree. I played this deck probably for 8 games.
Yeah.
And I was really happy with it for 2 of those. But that's, again, small sample size. It can mulligan extremely easy. I've had multiple turn 1 Aangs, which is also pretty insane. It's just a lot to learn. Again, it was a 96-page primer to figure out. So I think that it's a deck that the more that you learn, it can really pay you off. It can get really strong. I think this is probably one of the few ways to really anti-meta the cEDH metagame. I would say like it can potentially be faster than a lot of the other turbo decks, and it's extremely hard for the slop decks to interact with. It's just not the most consistent deck in the world.
And it can't recover. If they do have the interaction, you're just out of the game. If they Mindbreak Trap Aang, you're done. You can't do anything else.
Yeah, you needed to get to that feel state of having like the Soul Herder in play already, but it's so hard to do that.
Right, yeah. So I would say there's pros and cons, and this is also a deck that will get better forever as they print more and more clones, which they seem to love doing that. This deck is always going to get a new toy and can eventually bump out some of the other shitty clones, and eventually will get better and better. And they love playing with the legend rule and getting rid of it and shit like that. So the more things that get rid of the legend rule, the more toys that Aang's gets access to.
The more Gigantoplasms that we get, or Bernards in particular, I think also would make it more helpful, like other things to buy ETBs back. So you're right. This deck is just going to consistently be getting upgrades over the years. It's just hard to know that this strategy is going to be consistently good in cEDH because you don't get to play Rhystic Study. You don't get to play literally any interaction. Like your whole deck has to be dedicated towards winning the game, and it can't be dedicated towards protecting yourself at all.
It's kind of like Flubs in the same way how Flubs does Flubs shit. Flubs doesn't play Rhystic Study. Flubs doesn't play normal cards.
I can't believe I never made that comparison.
It's like almost the same deck, really. You know what I mean? Not really, but like it's the same idea of just like
you have to flood your deck with a card type that's bad. Yeah,
right, yeah, exactly. And like there's no recoverability and no agency either. I think that no agency part will keep a lot of competitive players away from the deck because yes, there are decisions in like which of these top 5 cards I'm going to pick and like what cards will I mulligan or not, you know what I mean? But like you're not interacting with your opponent. There's no back and forth. There's no game. And I am a turbo player. I don't want to go back and forth with my opponents at all. I totally get that. But with the complete lack of agency, I feel like that will deter players from playing this deck, which maybe if you do play it will keep you kind of underrated because not that many people are going to see it or know what to do against you.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that the underrated thing is going to be a big part. But your brain's going to feel extremely huge when you get this thing to work out as you try to explain the Cephalid Coliseum loops to your friends and then go, but I have a 1 ring out, and you go, I can't beat that. I had to win faster.
And also, it's nice that there's probably no politicking with this deck. You know what I mean? If your opponent's like, don't do that, and I won't counter your spell, I don't do anything else. I don't know. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You can't really politic.
Sure, you have Mindbreak Trap for Aang because I cast Lotus Petal and LED to cast Aang on turn 1.
I'm going to go buy a hot dog. See you guys later.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
See you later.
That's it. I lost.
I'm in the game. Like you still have to pass me priority, but like I can't respond. I can't do anything. It's funny.
Speaking of which, I have a hot take. I think that you should be allowed to concede whenever you want.
You should be allowed to concede whenever you want.
It's in the rules. Yeah, it says you can concede whenever you want.
You shouldn't be forced to be held hostage in a scenario that you don't want to be in anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally get it that it changes the style of the game, and a player's like, well, I made this play knowing that there's 4 players in the game, and the player leaves. You should be allowed to leave. If you have no percent chance to win anymore, you don't think you can win the game, you shouldn't be forced to stay just so that your other opponents can keep on playing. You as the other opponent should keep in mind, if this player has no percent chance to win, they might leave, and my engines will get worse. And that's part of the game. I think you should be able to concede whenever you want.
If you're allowed to offer a draw and take a draw whenever you want, why can't you concede whenever you want?
Right. If there's no percent, I think the reason initially why people said that is like it doesn't help you winning the game to concede, so why would you? But if you acknowledge there's no way I can win this game anymore, there's just absolutely no way, why would I force myself to stay in here anymore?
Do you know why? Because it probably is a way to force draws. You concede, but because you could still get a point in the game, your action of conceding now kind of forces the table to take a draw, depending on what happens, right?
That sounds good for you. You get a draw when you can't win anymore.
No,
you
but
should concede.
It sounds very toxic for the rest of the table. I can understand. I would not want that. And the fact that I guess 2 other players are going to get points when they weren't going to get points, maybe.
Then the players shouldn't have taken you out of the game, or I don't know. To me, I guess
it's not. No, but they didn't take you out of the game. You took yourself out of the game. It wasn't a decision that someone everyone else made to take you out. You decided you didn't want to play the game. I would be into that if you weren't allowed to get a point if the pod ended up taking a draw. Because as long as you have the chance to get a draw, there's still a reason to be in the game and to take game actions. But I think it would not do good for the tournament scene in the community.
But like, why would that be bad? Like, I don't think I can win the game anymore. So you have some stuff on the stack. I'm going to say I concede.
Because if you can't win the game, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying if the game then ends up being a draw,
you shouldn't get a draw.
You shouldn't get a point because you took yourself out of the game
to get something.
Like a hot dog.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is like, why is that bad? It's allowed. It's in the rules. There's like a rule for it. It's like 104.7. Your player can concede at any time.
But they can't concede. They have to concede at sorcery speed right now.
No, that's like a house rule that like commander tournaments take up. But like in the Magic the Gathering rules,
a player can concede at any time. You can concede
at any time. I think that's an action that you should be allowed to take.
Oh, no, I'm agreeing with you. You should be able to take that. But I'm just adding the caveat that if the game would end in a draw that you've conceded, you shouldn't get a point in a CEDH tournament for that.
I guess I don't really, to me, that's a separate argument. Like, yes, the draw system in CEDH might be a little bit funky, and I agree maybe that should be addressed as well. But I also, like, why would that be, like, why is that bad, I guess? Like, if I concede and I get a draw, why is that bad? I made it a strategic decision to get
Because I don't want to incentivize conceding either. Because I think if the draw situation's bad, a conceding situation's only going to make that worse.
I don't know. I guess I'm not seeing like why would that make it worse?
Because now we're giving people another option that they can take to kind of like
force a draw,
to fuck up a game and force a draw. Yeah, and if we're already trying to stay away from forced draws, or people don't like forced draws,
I definitely agree we should stay away from forced draws. I guess I'm trying to figure out what the situation would be in which you conceding forces the game into a draw. I guess maybe like if player A is going for a win and you have the answer, but you say, I'm not going to do this if you guys don't, agree to time walk yourselves or whatever, so that because I'm going to lose the game if I interact here. And they say, no, we're not going to take that deal. And you say, well, I concede right now, and you let the player win. But you could do that already. You could just let that player win already and then force that same situation.
Yeah, maybe the issue is more of a draw thing as opposed to a concede thing. Yeah. Because I agree. Like, I think you should be able to concede whenever you want in a game.
Why am I held hostage here? If I don't think I can win the game anymore, I should be allowed to get up and go outside if I want to. I shouldn't, you know what I mean? That just feels weird that, like, because it's 4-player, like, if you're racing NASCAR and you're in last place, you should be able to just hop out whenever you want. If you think you're gonna lose, even if it I don't know, slows the other players down by you being there.
I guess the only time that you do know that you lose the game is when the game is over and you won. Otherwise, like, the out that you really should be playing to in a tournament is my opponent could mess up.
Maybe that's like a moral difference, and like you should stay in because it gives you a better chance to win. But also, I think you should be allowed to make the decision that you don't think you can win, so you'd rather spend your time on other things.
Which is fair, but I don't think you should be rewarded with tournament points for taking yourself out of a game. I think that's really what it is. Yeah. You decided you don't want to be here anymore. You're forfeiting all of your rights to get points in this round.
To me, that's a separate thing.
Which is also I think maybe I am just bringing this into a separate thing.
If you lose a game, you shouldn't get points if the game finishes in a draw afterwards. Maybe that could be true.
You decided that you lost this game. You couldn't win. You couldn't find a way to get a draw. Yeah. Everyone else found a way to get a draw. Right. You weren't a part of it anymore. You're not here.
I think I could maybe get around that. Yeah, I could maybe get around that.
But maybe I think you're right. I think I'm bringing a separate issue into this.
Yeah.
But I do agree. We should be able to concede whenever the hell we want. Yeah. Especially if it is a rule in Magic. Why can't we do that in a tournament?
Right. I think there's like I could be talking out my ass right now, but there's like a caveat competitive commander tournament situation where like people have like decided like the sorcery speed is the only time you can do that. And most CEDH judges will tell you no, you have to concede at sorcery speed. I just personally think you should concede whenever you want.
Yeah. Well, now if a judge tells me that, I'm going to call the head judge and I'm going to say,
if there's a real reason why you think that should not be the case, let us know in the comments. I'm happy to hear people's opinions on this. I just think I shouldn't be held hostage at a table if I can't win the game anymore.
No, yeah. If you're not having fun, right. I don't want to be here.
I'm allowed to do whatever I want. I don't know.
I thought I was in America.
Where else were we going with this? Aang, any other thoughts on Aang?
I don't have any other thoughts on Aang, but I know you picked up Ral pretty recently.
Ra's great.
How have you been liking Ral?
Dude, it's awesome. The deck is super sweet. I thought for a little while that it would be bad into Rhystic sloppy stuff because you're feeding the Rhystic studies a bunch and you have to cast a bunch of spells. What I've kind of found is oftentimes the spells don't really matter. It doesn't matter if they find interaction for you on the first 6 spells because what you're trying to do is flip Ral. And once you flip Ral, it matters less because you can steamroll so quick quickly. In my situations, it seemed like there are times where you get very far ahead and eventually you just like bounce the Rhystic Study or you do these other things. There are certain points where like stopping Rao's mana can be really like that's how you stop the deck, but it just seems like the deck is so fast and it goes so over the top, and like, yeah, you feed them a bunch of cards, but none of your spells, like not one of them matters. It doesn't matter if they counter one of your draw 2 cards. You know what I mean? Like,
as long as you have more gas in the tank.
Right, you just like go again, you can go over top. Oftentimes you are incentivized, like it's almost better for you if they interact for you because you've cast a spell. Now I can cast Flusterstorm. That's another Rao trigger. You want them to try to stop you because that's the only way that you can get another spell on the stack or something.
You try
like
to
that.
remove my Rao, now I can interact with you so that I can flip my Rao, so that I didn't even care about the counter. I just wanted to
It doesn't matter.
flip
There's
Rao.
been a couple times where I like cast a spell, deflecting swat the spell, it doesn't do anything, gut shot the spell, holds the priority in response, and then that's 4, 5, 6 spells. I get 3 flips to go flip the Rao or whatever. It feels like very much the Epic Storm. If you're a fan of Legacy, the deck feels a lot like the Epic Storm, and I shouldn't say exactly that because the Epic Storm doesn't exactly play like this, but it does do a lot of things with wheels and with Lion's Eye Diamond and with what's the Time Twister where that you can flash it back.
Echo of Eons.
Echo of Eons.
It almost feels more like modern Storm to me. It's kind of what I would like the Pyromancer's Ascension kind of era.
It's very similar to the current Rao modern Storm deck that is playing.
Oh my God,
for
Ruby
Rao.
Storm. Yeah, I was thinking about 2011.
It's very, very similar to that deck for sure, but it's just like another style of Rogsai, where rather than front loading the important thing, which is what Rogsai does, you kind of front load the big thing before anyone has the chance to set it up, and then once that resolves, it doesn't matter what they have after because you have a bunch of stuff. This one, it doesn't front load anything because nothing really matters.
Rao's really the only thing
Rao's
that matters.
the only thing that matters, and like the rituals kind of matter. You know what I mean? If you can resolve the Desperate Ritual, normally you're good after
the
that.
first ritual matters.
The first ritual matters. If you can stop that Desperate Ritual or the Jessica's Will, then you can do a pretty good job at stopping Rao. But like they don't play a ton of interaction, but I'm playing Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat and Pact of Negation. There's a couple of interaction
There's some,
pieces.
yeah. It's not Aang. It's not like Aang, yeah.
Yeah, and the deck just, it seems like it goes way over the top in like a really fun, cool way. It makes you feel like your brain is so fucking smart. There's so many unique ways to win. It can win with actual Grape Shot by casting Grape Shot a couple of times and Grape Shotting the opponent. It can make Infinite Storm, reiterate a Jessica's Will, or bonus round a ritual, and then reiterate the bonus round ritual and create Infinite Storm, and then you can Grape Shot everyone.
You can make infinite mana that way. If you did a bonus round and now you're reiterating, yeah, that's infinite mana super easily.
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot of like weird, cool things, and it's kind of interesting because it's an Underworld Breach deck, obviously, but it's kind of a bad Underworld Breach deck, which makes no sense because Underworld Breach is still very good in the deck.
Nothing scared me more playing Rao than wishing that Underworld Breach is not in the top 8. Right. I exiled to Rao, yeah, like because I can't cast it.
That can actually kind of suck when you hit the Lion's Eye Diamond or you hit the Underworld Breach off of the Rao flip. You go, all right, those are gone for the rest of the game. I can never access those again.
But like you're saying, you don't really need it. There's so many ways to make Infinite Storm, and then like Mind's Desire or...
Oh, dude, Mind's Desire is so good. Storm Killing Artist with any card with Storm is absolutely insane. And like, yes, there is a world where if you're going last seed and you're playing against 3 Rog Ishai decks, yeah, you're going to have a hard time. If there's a bunch of Rhystic Studies and there's Smothering Tides in play and et cetera, it's going to be tricky. If they have 2 or 3 pieces of interaction, yeah, that's going to be tough for you. But the deck is quick enough that you can go on turn 2, and if they have 1 piece of interaction, it doesn't really matter. They have to specifically have interaction for Rao, and they have to have interaction for Rao at the right time. Because if you just cast another spell over top of their interaction for Rao, you can flip the Rao in response to their removal and then phase it out and you get the Rao flip either way.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. So like there is the luck involved. Obviously, you have to get the flips right, but you can set it up in a situation where like statistically you'll probably get there.
You can do like 75% chances that you'll flip Rao. I think that's what, like if you have 3 coin flips, that's 50% chances at getting Rao. So
that's
like
150%.
That's 150% chance you're gonna flip Rao. Yeah, I was gonna say 75, but I think that the real answer is that we have to average R2. So 100%.
It's a super quick and powerful and fast deck. It doesn't hang in the slop world as good as Rogsai can. And I'm gonna compare it to Rogsai because they're actually kind of similar decks in a lot of ways. They're both effectively Storm. It's weird because Rog's backup plan, I actually do think nowadays is better than Rao's backup plan. Rog can stand behind a Rhystic Study and survive in the game.
But your Rao list doesn't even have Rhystic Study.
No Rhystic Study. I have Mystic Remora, no Rhystic Study because like
too slow.
It's too slow. It's just too slow. And I could be wrong on that one. A lot of lists don't play Rhystic Study, which I think is kind of crazy, but whatever.
It's not an instant or sorcery, so its mana value isn't cheapened.
Exactly, yeah. And like the 1 mana Mystic Remora does help. That might help you fight through a counter war a little bit because if you're casting spells, they have a counter spell, you draw a card. Oh, another spell I can cast. All right, let's try to flip Rao
It's the same
again.
Spell, you just counter.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Whereas I counted the other day in Rogsai, I have 13 counter magic in Rogsai right now. There's 13 pieces of free interaction in Rogsai. 13 is kind of a lot, right?
That is kind of a lot,
I'm playing Misdirection. I can like like do a decent job. There was a game that we just had the channel where I had to Pyroblast a Mystic Remora, and then I had to Flusterstorm your spell, and I had to like play mini table police, but like it was really just table police with the intent of I just need to untap again so I can win the game on my turn. But it has the ability to do that. Ral can't really do that.
No, you have to dedicate too much of your deck to. It's kind of like what we were talking about with Will's question, right? Like so much of your deck has to be dedicated to making your commander work because you don't have a partner pair in the command zone.
Right. Yeah. So I'm really kind of all in on that storm strategy. If there's a deafening silence in play, I got to find Ottawara very quickly, or I'm not doing a damn thing in that game. Whereas like Rocks, I can just end step Tainted Pact, my turn, Thassa's Oracle. You know what I mean? There's a way that I can win around a deafening silence or something like that. I guess deafening silence in particular is only non-creature spell, so I could just Oracle Consult on the same turn.
That's the thing.
Whatever,
yeah, I was kind of thinking. I've been thinking about deafening silence a lot because I've been trying to think. You guys were playing more VGC. I'm like, well, it's super easy for people to find metagame answers in VGC to stuff. Why can't we find metagame answers to things in cEDH? Like, I feel like everything that like I think of is just like, no, that falls to this, that falls to this, and then like you can't really hit the whole format. You can only hit like one thing.
I think part of that is the multiplayer aspect of things. It's easy to metagame against one person. It's difficult to metagame against three person because deafening silence might be good here and here, but then it's not good over here. So you don't actually slow your opponents down. You slow your opponents down only a percentage of the time.
And only a percentage of your opponents a percentage of the time.
Exactly. I think that's part of it. I think also the singleton nature means that it's more difficult to find specific silver bullets of things, whereas in VGC, you have 6 Pokemon. You can just choose the good ones
Every
against your
game,
opponent.
I can bring Glamora no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also think in Magic, on the whole, recently, in the past 5 to 10 years specifically, the threats are way better than the answers. In cEDH, I think that's very true. Necropotence is better than Force of Will. I don't care what you say. Underworld Breach is stronger than fucking Into the Flood Maw. It's just like, it's better to win than to stop your opponents from winning, because stopping your opponents from winning doesn't mean that you necessarily will win that game, because there's more than one opponent, right? I have to stop all 3 of you from winning, and if I'm stopping all 3 of you from winning, that means I'm also probably stopping myself from winning. I think that's part of it.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, not having sideboards makes it really hard to do that then too. You can't really like expect, like you can kind of expect what you're going to come up against. But again, like you're saying with the multiplayer aspect, it's not like we can like reach into our back pocket and go, well, I have this for you because like I had a hunch that I would be playing against one person that does this. Like there's way too many variables in cEDH for you to go, oh, okay, I have a consistent anti-meta strategy.
Okay, if cards like Orcish Bowmaster and Dathi Voidwalker and Opposition Agent were 0 mana, it would be easy to stop other players. Or if cards like Drannith Magistrate said your opponents can't cast their commanders, or when this creature enters, make 5 treasures. If it could like go both ways, like it would have to be insane. But like if your hate pieces also could progress you towards a win, like that would be good. But like in VGC, the Pokemon that are good against your opponent's Pokemon, they win you the game. They're good against them because they kill your opponent's Pokemon, which is the goal of the game. Whereas like stopping your opponents in Magic is not the goal.
The only way to stop by attacking like you would in VGC in cEDH is to win the game.
Right.
So I think what you're telling me is that Aang at the Crossroads really is the meta buster.
Sure. Yeah, in theory it is. I don't know like mathematically if it actually wins enough, but like what it does I think is a meta buster.
You want to beat the meta. Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, I guess so. Realistically, I think the best way to beat the meta on the whole is to go fast. That's the best way to beat the slop decks. If you win on turn 2, there's not much they can do. Specifically, if there's multiple turbo decks at the table, the issue is that when there's multiple slop decks at the table and you go for a turn 2 win, 3 heuristic studies, someone's going to find something to stop you. But if there's like 2.5 turbo decks at the table and there's only 1 slop deck, that slop deck can't stop all of you. They're not going to be able to, right?
This is why part of winning a tournament is having luck involved. You have to get the right matchups all day and make sure you don't run into bad ones.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it is the matchup thing.
Interesting. For sure. Okay. Well, thanks for taking me down that. I thought that was cool.
You want to talk about your third deck?
No, I played it for one game.
What was it?
It was Ragashai.
Oh, yeah. 3.5 hours.
I played one 3.5 hour game.
I don't understand why people want to do that. Like, why do you want to put yourself through that? Just win. I don't know.
No, I'm trying something. I
agree. It's a good deck, and you should try it. I think you're a good pilot for the deck. I just don't understand why the deck.
Why anyone would want
to. Why does the deck exist at all? If we should all be playing turbo decks.
Trying to win, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I know. I agree.
The deck seems like it is very difficult for that deck to lose. That part's true. I don't think that it's easy for the deck to win.
I'm having a hard time winning. Yeah,
it's difficult for it to lose.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Or I think also I just need to understand the windows a little bit better too, or just like maybe not be afraid of taking the windows, because maybe my issue was, oh, this deck can go to the long game. I don't need to use this window right here in case it's not actually a window. If I was playing Blue Farm, I would push right here 100% of the time.
The politicking I think is part of it too, knowing when it's appropriate to show your opponents a force of will and say, please don't go for one right now.
Yeah, I don't have enough experience with the deck to want to keep talking about it. I might not not even include a lot of this in the podcast.
Okay, that's fine.
Maybe I will. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to get off your chest?
I've been playing Vivian a little bit more in VGC. Getting a little
Vivillon.
bit. Vivillon, is that what it's called?
Vivillon.
I thought the L was like a L was a Y situation.
Oh, it could be like a tortilla kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't know either. Yeah.
I mean, I was fucking tanking like a motherfucker for a long time, losing a lot of games in Champions, and I'm still losing a decent amount of games, but I've been winning a little bit more recently.
Are you on Scarf? Because are you on Scarf?
No, I'm not on Scarf. I'm on Focus Sash, just to have it survive.
Arguably the same thing.
It feels like the Scarf stinks because then you're locked into Sleep Powder, and then you have to switch out, and I don't really want to have to switch out.
What a shame. Both of my opponents' mons are asleep. Now I have to switch out.
Right, yeah, but I don't want to waste the time. You know what I mean? They're only asleep for 3 turns max. So they could fall asleep. They
did change how sleep works in Champions. Yeah.
So I would rather sleep, and then like Tailwind, or like sleep, Rage Powder. You know what I mean? And then just get knocked out, and then bring something in on a free switch.
I guess because you do have a good shot with the Focus Sash, where if you go Blastoise Vivillon, you can go
fake out Sleep Powder,
and then on your next turn Sleep Powder the other thing, and you're definitely still alive at that point.
Right, and then after that, if Vivian's still alive, if they don't double connect on you, which they might try to target you, but it's going to be hard because of fake out. Then you can set up Tailwind real quick, and Blastoise is like mixed, where like he can still be pretty under Tailwind. He's pretty quick if they don't have another speed boost themselves.
Yeah, I guess like the only thing that this strategy falls to is like if they lead Sneasler, because Sneasler's a faster fake out user.
Sneasler would be pretty good,
and probably faster than Vivillon, just because. But it also doesn't have a good way to deal damage to Vivillon, because
it depends on what their other thing is though. Because if they start with Sneasler and they fake out Vivillon, then I can Aura Sphere the Sneasler. It has a fighting and the blast thing with Blastoise. The Aura Sphere is like super boosted damage, and I'm pretty sure that
even
knocks
though you
out
don't
Sneasler.
do a lot of damage with the Focus Blast, you still will because of the Mega Launcher ability.
Because of the Mega Launcher, yeah. And Sneaser's weak to Sneaser's not weak to fighting?
No,
not weak to fighting.
Sneasler is fighting. I think Poison Tank's fighting pretty good, but I think Sneaser's frail. Mega Blaster's does a lot of damage, and Launchers is good.
I wouldn't start if there's a Sneasler on the team.
You just wouldn't do that.
I would start Farigiraf and Blastoise if there was Sneasler on the team, so they can't fake out. That's the real solution. But if we get into a situation where Sneaser's out and Vivion's out, I agree, that's not good for me.
Yeah,
yes.
I was just trying to think like the only downside to Sash, but it's not really a downside because your lead is just different. Because
if they have faster mods, like they have Aerodactyl, it's not as good there.
You can't leave Vivillon there.
Right, you can't leave it there. Like you can only really leave Vivillon if they have middling tier, or if they're on their own Trick Room or something like that. It's good against Trick Room.
But it sounds like you have other stuff to bring in instead of Vivillon. Right. Like it's not like Vivillon is like your be all end all.
It's a backup plan. Realistically, Farigiraf Blastoise is the main plan.
Do you have a Scarf Mon, or do you just not like Scarf on Vivillon?
I have Scarf on Basculegion right now. Basculegion.
That also makes sense as to why I would not want Scarf on Vivillon. If you are on Bask, like I would not. Yeah. I would want Scarf on Bask.
You can kind of like let the tail. You can let the Trick Room fade out, and then you bring in the Basculegion, and Basculegion just fucking one shots everyone.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would, if I was looking at that team, I would also say no. Your Scarf needs to be on Bask, and I wouldn't. Yeah.
And realistically, though, I'm not even sure on Bask because like I have Blastoise and Basculegion, which kind of sucks.
Do you even need them both? Yeah.
Right. I need a fast attacker in the back, something fast, but it kind of sucks that like Farigiraf and Sinistra and Basculegion are all weak to King Gambit, which kind of sucks because they all take super effective from dark moves. So like having 3 there and then also have Blastoise and Basculegion have water types. That's like the typing isn't really great.
I'm gonna say the same thing, dude. Sneasler, I feel like is your answer. Then you get a fast mon that can deal super effective damage into King Gambit, which is giving you trouble. Plus another fake out user too.
Yeah, Sneasler might be good.
Don't take my word for it, but like I would consider maybe Sneasler.
Realistically, the format's about to change in like 5 days or something like that.
So don't even consider it.
I don't want to make too many swaps right now because Mega Raichu is gonna come out, and I think Mega Raichu, if it's good, that might be good against my Blastoise
Honestly,
team.
dude, I never even made Master Ball this season because I've been playing Expedition 33, and I just like haven't been touching Champions so much.
Well, how is Expedition 33?
It's been a lot of fun. I beat the story, and now I'm like fucking around in like the post game. There's a new game plus, and there's post game, which is very confusing to me. Why go into the new game plus if I haven't even finished all the post game, and they're telling me there's more secrets? I have a lot of unanswered questions still. It felt like BioShock Infinite to me. I don't know if this means anything to you, but BioShock Infinite kind of ends with this huge mindfuck, and you go, what the fuck just happened to me? And I feel like when I got 90% through this game, the same thing happened to me. I had this big mindfuck, and I went, what the fuck is happening? And then like I was piecing things together for the last 10% of the game, and now I need to finish this like post-game thing and try to figure out what these secrets are, and or watch a lore video on YouTube to answer some questions, because I bet there's foreshadowing that I must not have picked up on earlier that might have answered some other questions that I have. But it seems like a whole new universe was just kind of created out of nowhere that like makes me go like, wow, is no one upset for the fact? Is no one upset with how, like, learning how their world actually is? No one's upset by the fabric of their own reality that they're in now. I don't want to spoil it for people out there, right? So I'm not saying too much, but like, I feel like if I was one of those characters and I learned what my world was actually like, I'd be like, I don't know. My brain would explode. So I'm mind fucked. Cool, yeah, I'm mind fucked. Yeah.
I'm sweating a lot. It's hot. Should we call it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so on Patreon, like our $100 patrons.
Handedly, Tronception, Mac the Mad, Seabass, Not Kareth, Bob the Skull, Davishar, Abyss AA, Peggy, E4 Cards and More, Red, Finks MTG, Wandering Around, Nethresmian, Mike H, Tom Bieber, Kuhn Upkeep MTG, Nathan Cohen, Mr. Jerby, Okie Toad, Penguin Man, 0089, David Newman, Johnny Denver, Omelet, Rocky Hall, Pat Fires, Will Cole, Spangly, Larceny, Roy Strawberry, Blue, Sparky B, SE Phillip, Olden Groupie, Zach Hartley, Reactive, Sean in the Ice, The Works, 472, Gabriel Garrett, Mace the Ace, Luke Cook, Connor Sipon, Joshua Day, Demon of Rosgrease, Peter Stewart, Cornell Wild, Uncle Butts, Doot Loot, and Quadjay Hamid, Scott Hawk, and Baby G-Bus.
If you want to pick up any of our merch, you can do that at playtowinmtg.com.
Dragon Shield supports the show, and you can too by using code PLAYTOWIN5 at the affiliate link down below.
Follow us on the internet for more content.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
Migs, FTW, Lumi E, Devin Morrow, Carpet Angel, Turtle99, Rick, Sharticus, Mick Saucy, Max McComber, Meta, Ben Finelli, Sarcastic, Mystic Muffin Man, Zachary Coulson, Dalton Poteet, Yond Wildfake, Thomas Bueno, David Nelson.